Hi everybody. Today we're going to do a wire wrap tutorial. We're going to learn how to make consistent size loops and to connect loops one to another so that you make a beaded chain, and how to create dangles that you can use in your jewelry. This is such a good skill to have, and you will find once you feel confident with it that you can take your jewelry making to a new level. Today we're going to use 24 gauge wire, and we will discuss 26 gauge. 24 is middle of the road. You will find that you will use this for most of your projects. This here is a 24 gauge, and 26 gauge, if you are making small wraps, perhaps using tiny 2mm beads or pearls, this is the one that you would use. It is the finest. It actually works in reverse order. So 22 gauge is a thicker wire than the 24. Today we're going to use these tools. This is the needle nose, the round nose, the flush cutter, and we also have a nylon jaw plier for straightening. So if you have some wire that has got some kinks in it, you can hold it in your needle nose and just run the nylon jaw down through, and it will take out the major kinks. Today I'm also going to give you a good hint. If you are making loops that need to be the same size, if you are doing a pair of earrings, you can take a Sharpie pen and put a mark on your round nose pliers and use this as a guide. So every time you're making a loop, you will line it up here, and this will help you make loops of the same size. If you look at the end of your pliers, if you put the mark towards the end, this will give small loops, and conversely, if you come the other way, you will have larger loops that you could perhaps use to thread onto a leather cord. So today we have a selection of beads. We have 2 different gauges of wire that we're going to be using, and these again are the tools. So primarily we are going to use our needle nose and our round nose, and the other ones we will take out of the picture. If you're right-handed, the instructions will be easy for you to follow along today. If you're left-handed, you will be holding the tools in the reverse hand. So we're going to start off. Take a piece of the 24 gauge wire and hold it in your needle nose pliers. It is important that you leave enough wire over the top of the pliers, as this is going to form the loops and the wraps. If I only had a little piece like this, you would not have enough to wrap with. I would rather you had too much that you can trim than not enough. So the first thing we'll do is to hold it in your hand, in your left hand. If you're right-handed, take your thumb and bend away from you 90 degrees. Hold onto your wire, put your needle nose down, and now we're going to use the round nose plier, again in your left hand. And the mark that we just put as a guide, we're going to line our wire up on this. So it needs to be tight into that 90-degree angle. Then we're going to take a finger and we're going to use that top prong of the plier to shape the loop. So you want to be pushing around that top prong. If you hold it out here on the end, you're not going to get the shape. So push it all the way around until that wire is pointing down in the same direction as the longer wire. At this stage, we will hold on to both wires, take it off the top prong, and put it onto the bottom prong. You want to line it up in the same space, and then we're just going to continue making that loop. So we will push the wire away, and it is back where it started, 90 degrees away from you. At this stage, I usually turn it around and take a look. What you're looking for is to get the loop centered on the neck. If it is not quite right, if it's bending one way or the other, you can just pull the wires back and make adjustments. So that looks pretty good. Holding onto the wire, put the round nose pliers down, and we are going to be back with the needle nose. So you're going to cover the loop, and now the shorter wire is going to wrap around the longer wire to form the coils. So with the round nose plier in your right hand, hold on to the end of your wire. The tendency is, when you're learning, to want to hold it in the middle. If I do that, I'm going to put kinks in the middle of my wire, and it's not going to be a good result. So take your needle nose in your left hand, your round nose in the right hand, and just slowly start wrapping. This wire here is called the neck, so we're going to be wrapping the shorter wire around the neck. And what I want to see is a coil that starts really close to the loop. So you can see that one starts nice and close. And then you want to build the coils out from there so that one builds on top of the other, moving away. When I say on top, I don't mean literally on top, I mean next to each other. So again, on the end of your wire, and you're wrapping. Don't try and do a full wrap in one go, because you will lose control and the wire on the end will get tangled around your tool. So maximum 1/2 degree wrap at a time. And I usually ask people at the beginning of class whether they think it's going to be a stronger finished product if you have more or less wraps. The answer is less. If you have long neck on a piece, it becomes bendy, so ideally you're looking for about 2 to 3 wraps. And at this stage, I'm going to look on the other side. It looks like I've got about 1/2 a turn left to do. Okay, so I'm going to put down my needle nose. I'm going to hold on to the loop, and with my flush cutter, the flat end towards the coil, I'm going to slide it down and trim just as close as I can to the coil. If you hold on to the end of your wire, it won't fly around the room, so that's always a good thing. And now at this stage, we can do some tidying. You can get your needle nose pliers and just tap around the coil, and it will take away that sharp edge. And if you don't feel as though your loop is quite as round as you'd like it to be, hold onto it in your left hand, take your round nose pliers, thread it on, and you can just wiggle it around. That will round it up. Also at this stage, if you don't think your loop is sitting as centered on the coil as you'd like it to be, you can grab it with your needle nose, which have the flat interior, and just straighten it out. So there you have a wire-wrapped loop. And now to recap, I'm going to actually thread a bead on, and I will do a wrap on the other end, which will in effect create a bar. So holding onto the wire here, I'm going to take my needle nose and hold it just as close as I can to that bead, so I'm not building in any extra space there. And at this stage, I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to bend away so I have a 90-degree bend. Put the needle nose down, and we're back to the round nose. Again, we're going to line it up on the Sharpie mark that we made to start with. Goes through the pliers, and if you can't see your mark, then you're not holding your tool in the right direction. So it is important, as a reminder, that you put the mark on, then you can be confident that you're holding it correctly. With my index finger on my right hand, I'm going to shape the wire tightly to the top prong, fold it towards myself, and now that I have a bead on, it is a little harder to get it straight down, but holding it like this, take it off the top prong onto the bottom prong and slide it back to that mark that we made. Now the final step is to take the wire. I'm going to shape it back to where it started, and this creates what we call a bubble wand. As a child you probably blew bubbles and they would be blown on something that looks like this. So I turn the tool around. This way I can check and see if the loop is facing, well, if the loop is centered on the neck, number one. If I need to make adjustments, I can just bend it one way or the other and straighten this out a little. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to put this tool down, back to the needle nose. You have to remember, if you're holding on to the loop, then we want the tool that has the flat interior here. So we're going to cover the loop, and I would be wrapping with this, but looking at my wire, it is longer than I need, and it's harder to wrap when you have too long of a piece of wire, so I'm going to trim that back a little. And again, holding onto the end of your wire, I'm going to wrap tight and build that first coil. If you get a little bend on the end of your wire developing, you can just use your round nose pliers and straighten it out as you go. So slowly build those coils so that one builds right next to the other one. And when you're getting close, you can turn your wrist over and let gravity work and show you how much you have left to do. So I have just a little space left to go. Let's have a look at the back. I think actually we could trim at this stage. So flush cutters with the flat side towards the coil. I'm using the points so I can get in nice and close. Slide it down the wire, hold on to the wire so it doesn't fly, and trim. A little harder to do when you've got the bead in the way, but then back to the needle nose pliers, and I'm just going to tap in that sharp piece that's just cut. I'm going to straighten this top ring, and there you have a two-ended wire wrap. The coil is disappearing slightly in this one end because it has a large drill through this bead, and then you end up with a nice little piece like this.